Sacher playing blue-white-red. It's, he was in the Jerry group. They were working on this together. He has the one Inferno Titan. He has the two Limbalas in his sideboard. We've already seen this same deck list, I think, in the feature match 3 times today in the hands of Levin, Jerry, and AJ. So I think you might have an idea of what's going on there.
Josh has the full amount of tectonic edges.
Yeah.
Which Jerry said they're not that good in these mirrors because it's so often about tempo, like just early plays versus locking out stuff like Celestial Colonnade. But I guess we'll get to see if that bears true.
It looks like AJ has one more land than Josh as well.
Yes, mana is...
Yeah, mana is everything. Yeah, it's interesting.
Wasteland gets a lot worse when your opponents decided they already want to out-mana you.
Sure. So Josh bringing it with the Hawks here.
Oh, the hard cast sword.
He drops down his sword.
Into the Pierce.
Ooh, a Pierce from
Pierced
AJ.
back? Pierced back.
Nice. Well played by Josh. And it's kind of a weird draw. I haven't seen this draw by many players in the Cobblade Mirror Squadron Hawk into Sword into Pierce. Normally there's some Stoneforge Mysticking happening, or maybe they both have Hawks, but in this case, if AJ doesn't have a Hawk here, that sword is going to start going to town.
Yep.
And Josh presents his deck back.
AJ on the defensive very early. Looks like he's got some lands and a lightning bolt he can't cast in his hand.
Uh-oh. I mean, there's a Jace, I see.
And he has the Inferno Titan and the bolt, I think, towards the back there.
I think, was that a Gideon Jura? Yeah, he's got Gideon in his hand
Gideon,
also.
but he needs to get there first.
All right, well, he's going to be drawing some cards with Jace, and that Jace is going to quickly fall, I imagine.
Yeah.
I think you Fate Seal or Brainstorm? You probably Brainstorm, right?
He's Fate Sealing.
Oh,
Fate Sealing himself. Half a Brainstorm. Really.
Yeah, Scry. My favorite is like when you scry one and you put it on the bottom, but the worst is when you scry one and leave it on top. Not like in how it plays out, just in how it feels.
Oh, AJ's about to get that feeling, it looks like.
Not the ideal situation, but I guess if you're leaving it on top, it's not all that bad.
No.
Josh draws a Jace of his own, but I think he's probably just going to want to serve up with that sort of body in mind.
Probably.
Plus, he mills 10 cards, so if AJ left the card there...
Well, he only mills 10 if he attacks AJ instead of the Jace.
Correct.
So, he does have a choice in that regard.
But Josh has his own Jace in hand, so... Let's see where these Hawks go. Yep, they're East fighting
going
AJ.
to the face.
Josh is like, alright, I'll be the beatdown. Does Josh have another Spell Pierce in his hand? If he does, might be just what he's looking for.
I know he has a Deprive.
Oh, and there goes Sword of Feast and Famine.
Ouch.
Earlier, Mike Flores in the booth here was talking about how milling against the Cobblade deck can be really powerful, just if you hit their swords or Hawks, and Jake Van Loon and I argued about it a little bit, but I mean, I think that there's definitely some value if you hit the right cards. It's not maybe amazing, but it's certainly it's decent.
Sure.
So AJ quickly brainstorms. He's rocking the brand new You're Fired sleeves from StarCityGames.com.
He really needs a red source right here.
Yeah, he's digging deep for one. Let's see, how many mountains is he playing?
If he can move from Bolt into Inferno Titan on the following turn, he can take control of the game.
Potentially. But if Josh has that Deprive in his hand, like we think he might, they'll put a wrench in the Inferno Titan.
Yeah, it looks like he missed. Or wait, is that a fetch land behind that lightning bolt?
Looks like
it could be. He's putting Inferno Titan back, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think AJ has decided that is not the course of action he's going for this game.
Yep, that's Scalding turn.
All right, so Inferno Titan goes away. And AJ finds his mountain.
Now Josh does have Deprive for a hard counter here that AJ's probably not going to be playing around.
Right, I mean he just has the one Deprive, which is so tricky.
And AJ throws the Gideon into the bin.
Yeah.
Oh, but he does play the Deprive. It's kind of a good thing, because if he had a Leak and a Deprive, I don't think AJ could ever win this game, but...
Yeah, he forces him to spend the Deprive on the Gideon.
Yep.
So now, do you think you attack him with the sword, or do you just go after Jace? Or do you just trade up Jace, assuming Josh has another land?
I feel like you should just attack the Jace and then play your own Jace, but...
well,
Josh disagrees with us, clearly.
Well, it doesn't look like
me,
Josh has another land.
No, he has an island. Right there.
Oh, he does, yeah.
Yep. He deprived it back to his hands.
Well, oh yeah, fair. So I guess he's on the beatdown plan this game.
Yep. He's apparently just decided that Jace does not matter.
Or he's just going to attack Jace and, you know, show that he's just going to befuddle us all.
That's fair.
Josh considering his line of play here. All right, he serves, and he could just attack AJ with the wolf and the
I feel
hawk.
like, yeah, I think you attack Jace with everything here if you're, or attack AJ with everything here if you don't attack
just
Jace.
Put him on dead next turn, right?
Right.
And AJ mills a bunch of cards. That Inferno Titan was just put back, goes away.
Good. Fare thee well, Inferno Titan.
And AJ quickly untaps his lands. He's looking for the
he has
answer.
a pair of bolts. Oh, Day of Judgment.
Off the top, it's a good one to draw. And we determined Josh does not have another counter in his hand?
I don't believe so. Unless he happened to hit one with that preordain this turn, which I don't see one. I just see Gideon, Jace.
Yeah, I see a lot of white cards.
Yep.
So it looks like AJ might go for the day here, clearing the board.
He'll still be in tough shape. Josh just can untap into Gideon.
Right. Well, untap or trade Jaces, potentially.
I feel like
he's probably just going
to play the Gideon. Like, it's lethal. Like, AJ has to literally...
It is lethal. The problem, of course, is that if AJ just drops down, like, any blocker, you know, Stoneforge Mystic or...
Well, within turns, the Colonnade will come online.
Right. Yep, and so here comes the day. Knocking down those creatures. And Josh reluctantly slams them in his graveyard.
Yep.
And then Mystic.
Now I don't think he's going to play the Gideon. AJ could have held counter there. Not actually had the counter, but just repped it to try and slow down Josh.
And he's getting sort of body in mind, because the Feast and Famine was milled away, which is surprisingly relevant right here.
Well, I mean, body in mind's the better one, I think, a fair bit of the time. And in this matchup especially.
It feels like, I think it's definitely a close call. With AJ at the left total use, you might just want the blockers.
Yeah.
On the flip side, being able to do more things, like he's got a lot of cards in his hand, so if he can just find a way to utilize all of his mana, get 2 uses out of all of his red sources potentially.
It's also true.
It's hard to know which one he would have picked. So Josh is looking at another Squadron Hawk in his hand. We got a Jace, and I think now he's choosing whether he wants to trade up Jaces or go for Squadron Hawks. And he looks through his graveyard and trying to just figure out what the plan of attack is.
Definitely an interesting position. He's got a lot of options. They separate the men from the boys, as they say. Squadron Hawk it is.
Yep, and Hawks comes down. And do you think he's going to bring another Hawk in this turn? Nope, he just equips.
Just equip. That's real good for AJ, who's got that bolt riding already.
Yes. It's a big problem for Josh. I mean, obviously he wanted to try and protect it from a Jace bounce, but...
I think Josh just decided AJ's not likely to have a bolt based on his play earlier, like just getting basically beat down. But little did he know, AJ's was actually just hurting for red long enough and held the bolts.
Yeah. Great play by AJ. And that Jace has been active for far too long.
Yeah, this is where it starts getting itchy.
Yeah, it was looking good for Josh, but that day and then the Jace powering things up.
It's the funny thing about life points, of course. You only need one.
Especially in these control mirrors. And the thing is, Josh doesn't have any reach. If he was playing the red version, he'd be like, well, I'll just eventually draw some lightning bolts, right? But he can't quite do that. Okay, so yeah, he bolts down the Hawk. And then it looks like Sword is going on that Mystic, judging by the main phase lightning bolt.
I don't know. I think he just did it now because he didn't want to risk, he's already seen it deprive. Any more shenanigans could effectively end the game.
It looks like AJ's thinking about it.
He is thinking about it, for
shuffle
sure.
cards a little bit. Yep, here we go. Yep, and there comes the Sword.
And he's going for it, all right.
Sword on Mystic. And this time it'll be Josh who gets milled.
I guess we do keep in mind, we don't know that AJ knows that Josh doesn't have red yet, so...
Right. He could be like, well...
That could be another incentive to go ahead and get it on that Mystic right now.
Right. Although after this mill, I think
after this mill,
he's
probably wising up, yeah.
The jig will be up.
Yep, the tech edge is definitely a full giveaway.
Yeah, and yeah. AJ knows everything.
Evolving Wilds, there we go.
As long as Evolving Wilds, get another red. sure Josh would love to see a land so he can serve with that colonnade.
Well, now he's stuck on Manalik and Planeswalkers with some Hawks to boot.
I mean, so he can jam down that Gideon, but I'm not even sure that's right. And that Jace is just really crushing him. But taking the time to kill the Jace means he can't do anything else, and that sword is just going to keep going. It's a rough choice for Josh here.
Tables have turned.
Indeed, they have. Let's see. Josh considering his options.
AJ's mana advantage is definitely displaying itself here.
Definitely. Alright, so
Stoneforge for Feast and Famine.
Stoneforge, get the Feast and Famine before it's milled away, and then drop the Body of Mine on the Stoneforge. That both protects it from Jace being bounced, it cannot be lightning bolted, and it can block that Wolf token pretty convincingly.
Most importantly, can't be blocked by that Wolf token.
Also very true.
So now he's going to defend himself from AJ's next hit with the Mystic and be able to threaten a pretty sweet attack.
Is it on?
It's in the article. For those wondering, Gerard's deck is in a deck tech that has already been written and emailed. It's just a matter of time before it gets posted.
So yeah, for those of you who are just watching us with Ben and Gerard, you can go check that out.
And obviously, Lundquist it listed a little different. We discussed the differences though, so that should be able to help you figure it out. Fate Seal U. He's got another bolt. Interesting.
Alright.
AJ's probably going to attack here and bolt to finish the job. He may play another spell.
I mean, maybe you fear the bolt. Maybe he's worried about Josh not blocking.
Intrigued.
Okay, so
he
Gideon
tapped
comes
out his
down.
red deliberately. Like, didn't make that play.
I think so. So it's really subtle play here.
Yeah.
With AJ tapping his red, he's showing Josh that he doesn't have a bolt in his hands,
Yeah.
or that he's a reason to leave 2 blue, a potential 2 spell pierces or something similar.
Right.
So, of course, Josh is a good player. Maybe he sees through AJ's ruse because unless you have 2 spell pierces, it's just better to leave Colonnade Mountain up. So yeah. So he's going to trade there. Mana leaks the Gideon.
Now this attack doesn't accomplish anything, and
And
he
just
picks him
picks
up.
up the cards.
He realizes that AJ has successfully defended himself and locked the game.
Oh man. Yeah, so Josh takes game 1. For those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here with Glenn Jones, and we're watching the standard portion, round 5 of the Star City Games Open Series here on in Edison. Featured on your screen right now is Joshua Ravitz, a longtime player who
And curmudgeon.
and curmudgeon, who made top 8 last weekend with pretty much the exact same deck. On your screen now is AJ Sacher, who's playing Jerry's newest version of the Sparkblade deck, as they were calling it, the Cobblade deck with the red.
Or Angry Birds, as our commentators in DC tried to affix that name to it.
Sure.
Twitter users have been having fun trying to name Gerard's deck. We've had I like Darkwing Duck personally. That's my favorite. We've had Blackhawk Down also, Dirty Birds.
Dirty Birds is a popular
Dirty
one.
Birds. Black Swan. I think that one's nice.
Black Swan is really good. I still like Black Blade, the original name.
Black Blade, yeah.
But you know, maybe
It's a good
it's a little too obvious.
I mean, these references are not the most subtle. We're not gonna lie to anyone here.
So what do you think you board here? So in Josh Ravitz's board, he's got a Sun Titan, which is
Definitely
almost
the Sun
assuredly
Titan.
coming in to bring him up to 2 Sun Titans. He's got Baneslayer Angels. Do you think you want those in this
I think
matchup?
the Angel is pretty reasonable. It's not trumped by much. especially in AJ's list.
Okay.
And I could see bringing it in.
And
Divine
then
Offering.
Divine Offering. Does Oust do anything? Probably not. Seems pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Mortar Pot is the one that, like, I'm not sure about. I don't think you would bring it in.
Want to.
But at the same time, once that's in play against AJ's deck, he can only equip the Stoneforge. I don't think it's completely unreasonable. I probably wouldn't bring it in, but
Like, I just can't see it being better than another card most of the time.
that's fair. Yeah, he doesn't have that many slots.
Like, because I mean, best case, he doesn't have Basilisk Collar in his deck, so best case, all it's going to do is just take out.
What do we think he is cutting, actually?
I mean, he's definitely cutting the Sylvok
the life stabs, probably the Mana Leak, since most people don't like Mana Leak that much. Probably some of the days.
Yeah, some of the days are probably. I don't know if he'll cut all of them, but some of them almost assuredly.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Spell Pierce in this matchup?
I feel like it depends on what your plan is in the matchup. It's either good or horrendous, depending on what you're actually going to try and do in each game.
And how about Gideon?
Gideon, I think you just kind of have to keep in. He's really strong. He demands an answer from the opponent. That said, he does get chump blocked by Hawks, but his ability to turn off swords temporarily is pretty huge, I think.
On AJ's side, in his sideboard, he's got Divine Offerings, which he'll probably bring in for the swords, Cunning Spark Mages, which are certainly nice, Sun Titan of his own, and he's got these Linvals in his sideboard, but interestingly enough, Linvals are way better against the red version than this version, so I don't know if we'll see the Linvals come down.
I doubt it.
I mean,
even though the 4-mana 3/4 flyer is nice because it blocks any one-sorted creature,
right? But
I don't see that being that relevant.
I agree. I mean, it's important, but at the same time, is it worth a card? It's debatable. And shutting off Stoneforge Mystic is, iffy at best. For those of you wondering, AJ is sporting the You're Fired sleeves, and there's 5 different kinds of these sleeves that Star City Games just came out with. There's one for every color. You can go onto the Star City Games website, check it out for yourself if you want to buy them. I think the blue Don't Daze Me Bro has been the most popular so far.
Yep. By a stretch, I think. Although I'd tap that as also way up there, the white sleeve.
Sure. Yeah, so the players are sideboarding and they're off to the races. Josh, man, it looked like Josh was in a really good position that first game.
I know, I'm amazed AJ just spun it right back around on him. Sword of Binding of Mind connected twice in that game?
Well, on both sides of the table, it connected more than that, right?
Well, sure. I meant, Josh connected twice and then
it
wasn't enough.
Twice, 2 times. And it still wasn't enough to take down AJ.
So rare.
I mean, that Day of Judgment for AJ was pretty timely, but to be fair, he could have drawn it at any time. He has plenty of them.
No, AJ won. Yep. Oh, we didn't even notice we had the wrong game count up. Whoops. Sorry. No, Josh scooped it up.
And off to some preordaining here. Josh leads with Tech Edge and Celestial Colony.
Now, did AJ have that island in his opening hand? He had an Arid Mesa, certainly. AJ, turn 1, the Glacial Fortress, which if you're not planning to preordain on turn 1, I remember a lot of plays like that can sometimes give your opponent misinformation about the sort of mana sources you have available in your hand.
Now they're playing the slow control game here. We haven't seen a Hawk come down. We haven't seen a Stoneforge come down, which has been the typical turn 2 play in this matchup. Right, AJ just drops Arid Mesa right into the graveyard.
Yep. Note that thanks to being on the play, Josh can keep a little looser than AJ because hands with Mana Leak become also keeps, versus normally you only want a hand with like a Squadron Hawk or a Stoneforge.
Right.
Because you can counter your opponent's Squadron Hawk or Stoneforge. AJ doesn't have that luxury because his Mana Leaks would be dead. Note that Josh did keep in Mana Leak, which we thought he might board out.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan on the surface of Mana Leak in this matchup, but
we brought in Condemn.
But I've heard people putting it down. So Condemn is interesting.
Condemn is interesting.
He saw that Inferno Titan in the first game.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just worried about the fatties. He figures that AJ is likely bringing in, a Sun Titan or something similar. And if the game goes long, it could be huge. Plus, condemning a sworded guy can be a huge swing because they just expect that sword to hit. Like if you go 5-mana Feast and Famine attack and you go condemn, they're not going to expect it, and they're just out that turn because they spent so much mana on it.
One turn can be all it takes sometimes.
Exactly. I mean, then they're tapped out. And
Stoneforge into the league. AJ
Yep.
manned up on it too. You saw him trying to. Should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? All right, I'll do it. And immediately mana leaked.
Exactly.
AJ drawing his mountain there.
So AJ's, well, all right, well, my Stoneforge got mana leak. Now what my plan is. So he's got like a Gideon in his hand.
He's going to try a Cunning... No, not a Cunning Spark.
Oh.
Maybe
Taps,
a Cunning Spark. All
untaps.
right, thinking it over.
Maybe trying to make Josh think he has something that he doesn't.
Well, that's true. He doesn't have a Jace, but that kind of play would make him think, or is that... Did he draw a Jace? No, he has Jace, okay. He was thinking about Jace.
I mean, AJ is a
savvy guy.
He's very savvy, yes. On the flip side, though, Josh has been around the block more than once. He knows his fair deal of mind tricks.
Shine it again, and no cert again.
Yeah, those leaks are sure shining for Josh here.
And Josh is going to land go.
Looks like Josh is sitting on Condemn,
Titan.
Gideon, Titan.
He has a Divine Offering also.
Oh, one of them is Divine Offering, excuse me.
Tech edged one of AJ's lands.
Right.
Little easy to know that AJ's got plenty.
And here comes Spark Mage. Not looking so hot right now. Yeah, I don't know about that Tech Edge. I wonder what Josh's plan is, because I felt like he'd be trying to get to Sun Titan, but...
Well, Josh didn't have lands or really a way to get them, so I guess he figured I'll just try to cripple AJ.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And hope that gives me the time I want.
And drawing that Jace certainly helped.
Plus, we can just professionally pull Jaces off the top of our deck, and then we're fine.
Yeah. That Jace is going to be very strong. Now that Spark Mage is going to have a little bit of an effect on the game, but still... Josh considering what to put back. And puts down his 5th land. Which means
AJ has to decide where to poke.
I assume you have to go at Jace, right? Yep.
It's ugly, but you gotta do it. And he draws a Jace of his own off the top there.
Yep.
Oh, he's got another Spark Mage to finish this.
Oh, that was pretty good. And Jace goes down. I think a lot of players might have Fate Sealed there, or potentially Scryed, but Josh was like, no, I just need those cards so bad. Which is a good distinction. Knowing when to switch up your play is huge.
And once he gets those lands, his endgame's going to come online, which is all these giant creatures.
Yep. And now AJ is tapped somewhat low. I guess he still has 2 mana up to represent mana leak. But Josh could potentially deploy that Sun Titan or Gideon here, both of which are pretty backbreaking.
Well, the Sun Titan will be recurring a Tectonic Edge, which actually doesn't get any of AJ's lands right now.
Right, but I mean, still
but
pretty...
it's certainly huge,
yeah.
He's going to go with the Gideon instead.
I mean, Josh has a Stoneforge Mystic in his hand, but with that double Cunning Spark Mage on the other side, it certainly looks a lot less tempting.
Gideon assassinating one of the Spark Mages?
I think that's a pretty good call. And he saw right through AJ's ruse and slammed that Gideon down.
Jesadaru?
And there's a Jace on AJ's side. He's happy he got to deploy that.
I guess we can kind of probably safely assume AJ may have boarded out Lightning Bolt. I don't think... How many mountains do they run? I don't think he can afford to fetch another mountain here, even if he had one.
AJ has 3 mountains in his
He does have 3, so he could, but I don't think he can go down to no ways to find white, probably. That'd be pretty slim.
I mean, the white seems pretty important. Especially, as he's looking at a hand of Gideons and Stoneforge Mystics. I feel like it's really interesting in these matchups, because Lightning Bolt is not a card you want like a ton of the time, but killing Stoneforge Mystic and killing Jace are both huge, or at least being able to represent those. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ shaved some, though, because looking down at your opening hand of like 2 Lightning Bolts just isn't that exciting. I think there's a lot of really interesting things you can do in your sideboarding. Like, do you leave Mana Leaks in? Do you leave Spell Pierce in? Do you leave Lightning Bolt in? I mean, there are a lot of really interesting questions that totally depend on what your plan is.
I believe we just drew another Condemn there. Getting on the offensive, Spark Mage blocking and zapping.
And Gideon gets in there, and that Spark Mage jumps out of the way pretty fast.
It zapped Josh, not Gideon. Ruh-roh, Raggy.
And here comes back Tectonic Edge, which, granted, isn't going to kill anything right now, but still, an extra land is pretty nice, and having the ability to kill something, especially AJ's second white source later on, could be crucial. So AJ untaps, he knows that Sun Tightening is threatening. He can always bounce it with the Jace, but then he's not drawing any cards. And the Sun Titan will just come back down at some point.
Looks like AJ's sitting on Leak and Stoneforge here. Drew a Plains. Big game, big game.
AJ trying to figure out how he's going to get back in this one. How am I going to block that Gideon? How am I going to deal with that Sun Titan?
He's got a Sun Titan of his own. That'll get back a Spark Mage.
I mean, that's a good start. It gives him some blockers.
Can also generate mana by getting back some of the fetch lands. And,
on the flip side, does Josh, is that a... No, that's Divine Offering, not Day of Judgment.
Right.
So, I was going to say Day would be pretty insane, but... Alright, so AJ opts to Brainstorm.
Makes me think his plan here is definitely to go with the Sun Titan. Probably be willing to trade Titans if he gets the opportunity and use the Spark Mage to block the Gideon again.
Okay. And he plays his land, taps a bunch of mana. Oh, here comes Sun Titan.
Sunny side up.
Bam. Nice promo Sun Titan to match the normal one on Josh's side of the board.
I like the normal one's art.
I also like the normal one's art.
AJ contemplating what to get.
Alright. So he's thinking about his options. What do you think you would do here, Glenn?
Oh, I haven't tested this nearly enough. I feel like intuitively I want to get the Spark Mage to defend my Jace. Or the Stone... Oh, he has a Stoneforge in the art. I forgot about that. Couldn't really see it. He got a Spark Mage, though. Okay. I like that because he can block both guys here. He can one the Gideon, and then his next turn, if he gets to do anything, basically, he can finish the Gideon. He may actually just let the attack through if Josh tries to kill Jace. Maybe that's his play. Spark Mage to kill Gideon, Sun Titan attacks, gets back another Spark Mage. Start resuming control of the board.
I mean, there's that Colonnade, which is going to be an issue. And the Colonnade comes up.
The Colonnade is active, so yeah, that's probably his plan here. If anything comes at Jace, you just ignore it completely.
And he serves the Colonnade at Jace. Jace down. And Sun Titan stays at home.
Interesting. So, I mean, this is one of those spots where, you know, one of them is probably wrong, because Josh doesn't think his Sun Titans are worth trading, and AJ's play indicates he doesn't think his Sun Titans are worth trading. So one of them's wrong. One of them needs to trade. One of them should be wanting to trade.
I think one of the keys here is Josh has Condemn in his hand,
yeah,
which could be huge. Like trading Condemn for that Sun Titan
sure.
is gigantic.
It's it reminds me of the situation in Scars, you know, where you play a turn 2 mirror, your opponent plays a turn 2 mirror, and then on your turn, you know, like you attack, the other guy blocks. Like one of you messed up. You know, like there's no way both of you just did it right. Similar basic analysis. He's got a Colonnade of his own. That's not much against the Tech Edge.
Right.
I assume Gideon plus 2'd.
Okay, so he brings down Stoneforge Mystic, and he has 5 mana untapped. But once again, there is no white sword.
Nope, he has the Collar.
Collar's good. That is pretty good. He's going to no doubt serve it to the Spark Mage, and that Sun Titan is going out of there. And that is probably why AJ felt like he was okay to not
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not believe that you generally boarded in collar in this matchup, but AJ differs.
I mean, well, once again,
It's very modular. Yeah.
Just how Josh brought in the condemn for his opponent's stuff. It's just like, well, maybe he's gonna have Sun Titans of his own. I'm gonna want to.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure AJ is about to just flip out when he sees condemn and then casually mana leak.
I guess there's that Divine Offering sitting in Josh's hand.
Yeah, but either...
And so the correct time to Divine Offering is in response to the Cunning Spark Mage.
Or in response to the... Oh, I see what you mean.
Ability,
yeah.
right?
I agree with that.
So then you force him to use the Spark Mage. And
either way, this is bad news. Like, AJ has the mana leak. It doesn't matter what Josh chooses. All paths lead to no.
Right. It's definitely a hard decision. All right, so Offering's
he's
it
going
now.
for it.
And mana leak comes down.
Out of here and out of here also.
The issue with offering the collar is that when he serves with Sun Titan, he gets to bring the collar back. But obviously AJ was like, no, we're just going to leak that, which is, I'm sure was right to do. And now that Sun Titan's in, that Condemn is now live next turn, which is nice, but gets another Stoneforge Mystic. And Josh just packs it in.
Yeah, it's over. Wow.
And that collar was
a really interesting
Up until
game.
that turn, I was like, oh, it's all right, this is pretty close. Like, this is really interesting. And then AJ just finds the collar and it's lights out.
Standard is a format of Haymakers. That's definitely true.
Yeah, and apparently Haymakers are 1 mana artifacts these days.
You make a big play and your opponent's just too far back.